You know, it's really, really annoying when vlogging actually helps you with your writing process. And so you're like, hey, let's just keep doing this because I really thought I wasn't good at vlogging. And then turns out vlogging's really good for me. So I'm gonna have to get good at it. This is something I love to do anyway because I'm a nosy bitch. Oh my God. Struggling immensely. Why? Is that called Sheriff's Bad Bear? Don't look at me. My friends are actually fucking insane. I'm sure every single person in French is screaming at me. I saw you in my dreams. Hello friends, welcome to another vlog. I'm pretty much going to be vlogging about the Eclipse project because I was editing my last Eclipse project vlog, which you can watch. It's 30-some minutes of me rambling and generally talking about this book. So basically what I decided after looking at it, working on it, and basically just saying, fuck it, I am going to be trying to write it as a book. Not try to put any pressure on myself when it comes to like what the book looks like and like what the book is. I'm trying to get over the fact that I am a perfectionist and believe/feel like my first draft should be perfect when the fact that fantasy is just truly never perfect. No book's ever perfect. What am I even saying? So because I'm turning over this new leaf with the Eclipse project, I would like to find a new title for it. Basically, what I've come to realize is that the Eclipse project does not really fit with the vibes of the book anymore. Like, it's very good as shorthand, but I don't want a project title that's like the blank project or the blank book. Like, I have a lot of those and generally it's not my favorite thing to have. I prefer to have a title, and this title doesn't have to be perfect / doesn't have to be like the title that I end up using for it if I ever do query it or ever do publish it or ever like, you know, but I want something similar to like The Wrath King, which is the first book that I ever wrote, and that is not the title of The Wrath King. Like, that book is no longer called The Wrath King. Because spoiler alert, The Wrath King isn't actually about the Wrath King. But we don't have to get into that here. In fact, we're like definitely not. I definitely want to have a clean slate with the Eclipse project. I want to make a new Scrivener file. I want to kind of make a new playlist. I want to do some new things. I want to like reorganize the document. I basically just kind of want to not have this really messy file anymore because looking at the messy file is extremely anxiety inducing. And I'm doing everything in my power to make writing less anxiety inducing. Just throw up the peace signs to avoid how uncomfy you are. So I'm gonna be trying to find a new title for the Eclipse project, and this is where you guys can come in and also tell me in the comments if you think all of my ideas are silly or you have a better idea based on what I talked about in this vlog. Without further ado, let's jump in.
1 minute, 37 seconds later.
Why did I change the angle? No one knows, but it's called visual interest. This is also my very typical vlogging angle. It's a little lower, it feels a little less formal, so just bear with. So I have a few strategies that I've already been working on when it comes to finding a title for the Eclipse project. I have employed the help of my friends. I've been looking at other titles, and I've also been brainstorming myself. So I do have a document with, it's called my All About My Novel. It was my script for my actual video about the Eclipse project, which you can still watch. It's fairly relevant. And I just started to put words that kind of revolved around the story. That was my first step. Here are a bunch of them, and I was just looking at them and none of them really strike my fancy. However, there's just a lot of them that do, you know, overall describe the book, I guess, / are things within the book, such as like the void, which is the main conflict, I guess, within the novel, is that there is an interdimensional void a la like the shadow fold in Shadow and Bone, or like the shimmer from Annihilation that is eating souls and sucking all the life out of the land. So that's called the void. And so I was like, something with void in the title perhaps, but I just couldn't find anything that worked really well for me personally. I also was looking through Goodreads, and this is something I love to do anyway because I'm a nosy bitch, is I like looking through the titles of upcoming novels or novels that have been recently published. Oh my God. Struggling immensely. So I was looking at new releases that were like tagged fantasy on Goodreads, and I was kind of looking at like the patterns that I had noticed over all these books, and there's only a couple of like conventions in titling that I actually personally like and like the look of. Like there's just a lot of repetition among titles, obviously. Like I don't love a lot of them. A lot of fantasy titles are like the blank blank. There's this one called The Sapphire Altar, or like, what? Is that called Sheriff's Bad Bear? Oh my god, a werebear is just a cute name for what Brandon Rager really is, a berserker. Beneath his skin lies a warrior driven by pure, brutal emotion, which was fine when he was at war, but at home, nothing's so easy. Okay, we're just gonna move on from that. Okay. There's also like blank of blank and blank, like Court of Thorns and Roses. There's a new one, Scarlett St. Clair's Queen of Myth and Monsters. A Dawn of Onyx is one by Kate Golden. It's also like objects like This Cursed Crown, The Risen City, A Shade of Madness, and A Cage of Crystal. And I don't love those titles for me personally. Like I just don't think pulling random objects that might have story significance and like put them into a title is really like what I like to have in my books. What I have found though is I really like setting titles. I really like setting titles. So like The Priory of the Orange Tree. There's this one called The Witches of Vardo, I think it's called, by Anya Bergman. I have not read any of these books because they're new releases, but Place of something, like Karma of the Sun. I think that one's kind of cool. So I like those. I do like name ones. Like there's one called Phaedra that I do like for the most part. I also really love titles with numbers in them. So like Six of Crows, there's this one called The Keeper 6. I also like one word titles, like, or I guess, I don't know if it's one word or two word, but Hellbent by Lee Bardugo. I like that. The sound of that, Hellbent, sounds fucking fun and cool, even though I'm not going to read that book because I didn't like Ninth House. But those are just kind of some conventions that I've been seeing here and things that I've noticed about my own personal style and taste. Again, this is nothing against titles that are called other things like The Sapphire Altar or like The Heavenly Sword or like whatever, like The Crown of Midnight, like, you know, like those aren't, there's nothing against those titles. They're just not personally what I prefer to like call my stuff. Although I do have a book literally called The Wrath King. So, although it's not called The Wrath King anymore, so I guess I could do something like that. I also like, there's a book that's recently coming out, and I'm not going to read this because I don't enjoy this author. I tried reading one of her other books, Song of Silver Flame Like Night. There's a lot of ones like that, so it's like blank of blank, blank like blank, blank like blank, blank like blank, or like blank as blank. This is so stupid. Like hope of fury, rage like light. Like those words don't mean anything, but like they're just keywords that I just slotted in there to like give myself an example. Like that truly does not make any sense to anyone. Oh, another book title that I like is Furyborn, but I don't really have anything to call, because the characters that are parts of groups like that, like I have a group called the Fury Guard, the Sorrowborn, Stormborn, things like that, like they're not main characters per se, which kind of gets into the other thing that I was looking at, which is like themes. So one of the big themes is like rebellion against the inevitable and hope in the face of something that's devastating. Why does my brain not work? And like rebellion against the inevitable. All three of the main characters really have to do that. And especially like if you have a story where they're not fighting against like an enemy, like a human enemy, you know, you kind of have to have that. Because one of my favorite tropes is like the, you know, the night before war, when everyone knows that something bad is coming and, you know, you're all stuck in the same place, like waiting for this inevitable to happen, and you have this really good human connection. If you need an example of this, the calm before the storm that happens in Lord of the Rings in the, is it in Two Towers? I can't remember. Basically when they're in Helm's Deep waiting for the orc army to come and slaughter them all, that time when everyone's together like waiting, so you have like the threat of conflict, but then you also have like, you know, the nice like human bonding experience, because you're all gonna die, so why not express all your feelings? And then it turns out you don't die and you have to deal with aftermath. I love that shit so much. The other example I was thinking of was Game of Thrones in season 8 when they're waiting for the White Walkers to come. And granted, I hate the end of Game of Thrones, but I did really like that episode until everything was ruined later. But we won't talk about that now. Why did I bring that up? Oh, because I was talking about theme. The other theme is coming of age and kind of finding out for who you want to be for yourself and not being forced into being something you're not, or trying to, you know, fit yourself into a mold that someone else has for you, even if it's like the duty that you have to, which I'm fascinated by. So I was talking to Wallace and Devesha about this. They help me with everything. I've been having, you know, the struggles that I've been having, they've been hearing about it firsthand, and much less eloquently than this will be edited. So thank you to them. And Wallace brought up the "Do not go gently into that good night" poem, which that poem really does give all the vibes of the Eclipse project. So I was trying to like pull something from that because I do like titles or naming my projects after things like poems or lines of something. Like my vampire book was originally called Violent Delights, Violent Ends after the Shakespeare quote. Obviously I can't do that anymore because, where is she? Miss Chloe Gong over here has those titles, and there's a lot of them called Violent Delights, Violent Ends. I have used things like that, so I could try to pull from like another book or a poem for it. So ultimately, at the end of the day, we have many different avenues that I could go down, and I'm just trying to get my shit together because I want to have this title that I can name my Scrivener document. And am I really trying to like procrastinate actually making the new Scrivener document and like organizing it? Because once I organize it, I will have to write it. Maybe I am doing that. Maybe I am, okay? Don't look at me. To recap, we have setting titles, number titles, title from a poem, thematic title, and a cliche fantasy title option. I think I'm going to try to find an option for all of those, and then we'll discuss. So that's what I'm going to be brainstorming, and we're going to see how it goes because I am really bad at titles. When I renamed The Wrath King, I had to do a lot of brainstorming, and I ended up pulling it from the book itself. And then Devasia found out the title for the second book because she's a genius. And then for Cruel Summer's actual title, the book I'm querying currently, I did not come up with that title. It was come up with by Miranda. Miranda came up with that one because she was like brainstorming titles, and she sent me a notes document, and I was like, that one's perfect. Which maybe one day I will share what that title is, but that day is, again, not today. So without further ado, we're gonna stop procrastinating. But if you want more comprehensive notes on it, I will leave it linked down below for you. If you also struggle with titling, I just have to get through it. I just have to do it. I don't wanna. Yes, the sweatshirt is in fact Edgar Allan Poe, and it is in fact made up of all of the words that are in The Raven, if you're wondering.
I saw you in my dreams.
Okay, so we're back to more of the vlog. I'm trying to figure out what the fuck I'm gonna name the Eclipse project, and I still don't know. It's been like a full week since I filmed the last clips. Oh, I'm trying to grab my notes and such. I like have been sitting on them for a little bit. Nothing has like popped into my head to be absolutely like, that's the one, that's the name. Fortunately, it would be really nice if it was. I just have a ton like written down. I don't know where I left off with these titles, but so we have a lot of them that none of them really feel correct, but me saying them out loud will make them feel more correct than they are. So I have the title Dawnfall, which is the name of the capital in the book. Against the Dying Light, which is, I think, already a title of a book I own, I think. Where is it? I think I own this book, but I'm like, where did it go? Into the Dying Light by Katie Rose Poole, this one. So I think it might be a little too similar. Granted, this is like the titles of these books. So this is the third book in the series. They all make like a sentence. So it's like, the fuck is the, there will come a darkness. What's the second one? There will come a darkness as the shadow rises into the dying light. So it like makes like a sentence. Whereas Against the Dying Light is just like a, it's not like a sentence that would form. It's actually based off the poem I was talking about in the previous clip. But I'm just, again, hesitant about it. Dawn of the Severed is like the cliche. It's kind of like Dawn of the Dead, but like Dawn of the Severed. For Sorrow, there's a lot about sorrow in there. There's the Sorrow-born. Dreams of Darkness, I guess there's a prophecy. Heartweaver, Eater of Angel and Saints. This is more of like a recent title. It's one that I actually pulled from a different story, but I was thinking about incorporating some of the magical religious elements of that story into Vespera, because Vespera is an atheistic country, but it hasn't always been. So I'm like, how did you come to be atheistic? And so there's like this whole myth and legend that I had already come up with before about how the gods of Vespera were eaten by the void. And when the void didn't go away, they kind of turned their back on the gods, because if the gods can't even destroy the void, like what hope do they have? We have Severed Souls, again, to go with the severed theme. Fractured Souls, Fractured Light, something like that. Fractured is what they call someone who's only been partially torn apart by the void. So one of our main characters, Aaron, is fractured. So he's has a white streak in his hair and has kind of been broken by that. We could also call it the Raven Court, because that's what one of the things is called. That's what Vespera's like court system is called, is the Raven Court, like their ruler so to speak, among the fractured. Then I kind of went into this like looking at like nursery rhymes and stuff, because I know one for sorrow, like the magpie thing, it's also can be raven, so like one for sorrow. Anyway, there's a different variation of it, which is 3 for a funeral, which does actually really fit because there are 3 prophesized children, or like teenagers, they're teenagers now, who are meant to destroy the void. That's like a prophecy that has been foretold. So like 3 for a funeral. There's a lot of 3 imagery. There's 3 point of views. Aaron was a part of a group of 3, the 3 kids. Burn Bright Again is another title. Burn Bright Again, there's not something, it doesn't like flow quite right. Battle Blooded is what they call Kree, and I'm a little bit hesitant about calling it Battle Blooded because Kree's not a main character. Like she is, but she's like not a POV character. Fear No Hell, I think is like what I would call it if it was like an actual like dystopia or something, like a dystopia instead of a fantasy, which it is kind of dystopian, but like, I don't know, Fear No Hell gives me dystopian vibes, and I might use that as a chapter title because I'm thinking about using chapter titles for this. And then there's this thing that I found when I was like researching like words and stuff, and it's called something else in French, but it essentially translates to Call of the Void, which is a psychological thing, and I can leave more stuff below about it. It's a phenomenon. Basically, like, it's the inexplicable desire, like, if you're like holding a knife and you think, oh, I should just like stab myself, or like you're driving along on a road and you're like, I should just swerve into traffic, or like I'm standing on a cliff's edge and like maybe I should just jump off the cliff. Like that is the call of the void, the call of things that doesn't make sense to you, but like are dark things. So like, I want to eat a sandwich would not be the call of the void, I don't think. And it's called L'appel du vide. Vida? Google Translate. Tell me what this sounds like. I'm sure every single person in French is screaming at me. Let's see what Siri says.
L'appel du vide.
L'appel du vide. Let me know if that's wrong. So Call of the Void, I think, is honestly the best one, personally, because it's a power I haven't talked about, and it's a power that's related to like death and ghosts and like continuing to live and stuff. Okay, so on the Vesperian side, there are 3 powers. There is Heart Weavers, Copper Spinners, and Shapeshifters, but then, so that's one side, and they're the ones who are being devoured by the void. Then you have Razor, who's on the other side. Before they were just 2 countries, like, and they, had their borders and their squabbles and stuff before they were united under one queendom to fight against the void. Razor has a whole different set of gods and also a whole different set of powers. Razorians are much more human-like. So their religion is based on 5 goddesses, 1 for each season. You might be like,
Katie, there's only 4 seasons.
I know. The 5th one is storm season. So there's a god of winter, regeneration, survival, death, darkness, and strength. There's also the goddess of storms, rain, rage, and untamed and untapped powers. There's the goddess of vengeance, justice, fire, sky, and inner peace. There's the goddess of water, spirits, the dead, and dreams. The goddess of spring, which is of nature, change, love, and familial tides. Also fortune, good luck, messages, and prophecy. So you'll notice I said death twice. The goddess of winter is like death and like you die, but the goddess of water and of autumn is actually about like what happens after you die. So people who have her powers, they're called reapers. So these people are basically like a metaphor for generational trauma, and the way that they fully come into their powers when they turn 18, I think it is 18, is they have to literally go back through the generations of their own family's trauma and like sift through all of the memories, all of the darkness, and they literally fall into like a coma for as long as that takes. Some people never come out of the coma, especially powerful ones, like ones that are born during the height of the cycle of the season, like really go through it and can see ghosts in their everyday life. So one of the reasons why reapers are so important is because they can see the souls of those who are trapped in the void. So it's kind of like if your soul's ripped from your body, this is so much information. If your soul is ripped from the body, it's essentially like a black hole. So you're not immediately eaten by the void. You can't really ever be reunited with your body if your soul is lost. Theoretically, like the void's not just like blackness. I kind of picture it like a black hole with like there's like an event horizon around the center of it, and so like souls are like kind of spinning towards the center, spaghettified, if you will. Just a tangent really quickly, even though this is a massive tangent in and of itself. One of the reasons why this was originally called the Eclipse Project is because of all of the astronomy language and lingo and things that were going on, and the fact that the 3 prophesized trio were born under an eclipse. So that's originally why I called it the Eclipse Project. Again, I want an actual title for it that's not just the blank project. Anyway, reapers are really important, and so they're very much feel called to the void, and those people to return to the call of the void. The philosophical definition of the l'appel du vide maybe. Also correlates with like the fact that it's literally a call of the void, like literally the void is calling people, literally trying to steal people. Because if you've been fractured, like Aaron is, he basically can't get out of a certain radius of the void, and the more of your soul that's gone is the less you can go away from the void. Like it's continuously pulling towards you because your soul's literally wrenched in pieces. If you're like basically almost severed, like your hair is full stark white, like you're really pale, you're basically like really pulled into the void. You have to like really struggle to not be called to the rest of your soul. So Aaron, one of the reasons why he can't leave Dawnfall, or why he doesn't leave Dawnfall after all the traumatic things that happened to him, was because he's literally being called back. And he tried to go away when it first happened, and he got like halfway across Raysor and passed out and had like horrible nightmares and seizures and stuff, and had to go back to Dawnfall to feel like not shit. Even though he still feels like shit personally. He still feels like shit emotionally, but not physically. So The Call of the Void feels like that could be the title that I go with, but I don't know, it feels the most right. So I might call it The Call of the Void, but like, it feels long. I don't know. I think I'm gonna go with Call of the Void for now, unless y'all have a better idea down below. Let me know what your thoughts are on it. Let me know if you have any other ideas for titles of the book. I've told you a bunch about it now, but we'll get more into it later. I might start calling it The Call of the Void and see what people think, and see like how it feels if I say The Call of the Void, The Call of the Void, because I have to like avoid calling it The Eclipse Project once I pick a name, because then it'll get confusing. It might be confusing anyway, but it's fine. My friends are actually fucking insane. Okay, so we're back with the Eclipse title blog. Luckily, we get to close this out with a new title, because I read the titles out to Devasia and Steeg and Wallace. The overwhelming favorite was not Call of the Void, because it's a little basic, and I did agree with that. I was like, it's like not perfect, but like it's not bad either. Like I would be okay calling it that. The title that I did decide on is a little bit long, but I'm kind of excited about it, to be honest. Is it fine, Miranda? Is it fine? I'm worried about myself. Anyway, it's tennis related, don't worry about it. So I basically wrote a little short list, and then there was like things that I liked about each title, but then I was like, And so one thing I do really like, there is the Magpie nursery rhyme, One for Sorrow nursery rhyme, and then there's a different version of it, an earlier version of it, that is 1 for sorrow, 2 for mirth, 3 for a funeral, 4 for birth, 5 for heaven, 6 for hell, 7 for the devil. So I really liked 3 for a funeral, because like I said, 3 is a really great number in the book. There's a lot of 3 imagery in the book, but I was like, it's missing something, just missing a little bit, just a tiny bit of something. So when I re-looked at the poem, because I just had written down 3 for a funeral, I didn't remember what the rest of them were, I came up with 3 for a funeral, 6 for hell, which I think packs kind of a punch, you know, 3 for a funeral, 6 for hell, which is kind of long. I'm not gonna lie, I'm so sorry if you forget. Tefaf, though, is what the acronym would be, which I think is kind of funny. 3 faff, 6 faff, I don't know. The acronym on the second half doesn't work as well, but we're going with 3 faff for now, 3 for a funeral, because that is the vibes. So we're gonna be working on 3 for a funeral now. Does kind of feel like a comedy title, but you never know what the vibes are for this book. I haven't written it yet, so we're gonna be working on that in the next vlog. Oh, my hair is a time. Oh my god, Miranda just roasting me. That's her, she has 3 things on her to-do list. Day job, tennis, and roast Katie, and she's effectively done all 3 now. Anyway, we're gonna be working on 3 for a funeral, 6 for hell. Now I'm going to be doing some character work and stuff. I'm gonna be doing some looking up the new Scrivener file, so stay tuned for that. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see those things. Cheeky plug. If you did enjoy this video, make sure to give me a like. Tell me all your thoughts about the titles down below. Tell me what you think about titling things, whether you're good at it, whether you're bad at it, or whether you thought a better title for this project, now affectionately known as 3 for a funeral, formerly the Eclipse Project, dead in the ground. Like, no more Eclipse Project. So that's all that I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.